So our next speakers are Chantal Winston and TobiasRose. Both are from Kompleks Creative and both are NCCU alumni. So excited to have them presenting today and seeing what they have to share. So I'll go ahead and share my pre-recorded session with you all. It is titled From Eagleson and Chidley to Black Wall Street.
At Kompleks Creative. And we are both alums of North Carolina Central University. We both graduated in 2005. We both majored in art with concentration in visual communications. And we went on and we did our own thing. So we just want to talk to you a little bit about our journey and some of the things that helped us get to this point, as well as some pointers to get you to where you want to be. Yeah. So how about we give you guys our journey, how we made it from North Carolina Central University, made it all the way from the yard to Black Wall Street. All right, so we started out in the art department. I started there in 1999. She started there a little later.
2002.
2002, so she's a young buck. In 99, you didn't really have the internet as we know it. We had Black Planet, we had MSN Messenger, Yahoo, we had those things, but we didn't have the sophisticated network social media outlets. We didn't have websites as you know them. So we would go online and just search for things and print it out. For me, I was a physics major. And so as a physics major, you don't really get a chance to do, really cool visual stuff. You sit around and you put together formulas that will hopefully help change the world. And me, I didn't really care about changing the world in that way. What I cared about was making the world a more beautiful place. And so for me, I decided that my journey would start at the art department, because in order for me to get to where I needed to be, I needed that art background. So I decided to change my major a year, 2 years in to art. And that's where I met Chantal, who already had it worked out. She already had it figured out, knew what she wanted to do. So she was an art major. Met her when she came in 2002. And then for me, I guess at that time, I was trying to just get my portfolio together. I mean, that was the biggest thing for me. I had the Praktis. The Praktis was my first company, but it was kind of the name of my freelancing company. And so I do encourage you guys as students, freelance, find an opportunity to work with people and understand what you don't know. That was probably the most humbling experience, working with my first client and getting fired by my first client. He was actually very understanding. He knew that this was our first project, and he's a good guy. In fact, I just ran across some of his stuff, but the name of the game back then was getting hired. So I always worked on my portfolio, and I always looked at other people's portfolio. That was important to me. We didn't have access to Creative Cloud like you do now and Behance and those things. So I was always going to other university websites to see what their grad students were producing, to see what students were producing, schools that had sophisticated graphic design programs. And that was helpful to me because I wanted to compete against those people. And I felt that the things that I got at NCCU gave me a leg up because I had this cultural element that they didn't have when they graduated. So I used that to my advantage. And so on and so forth. To make a long story short, I got a job working in the IT department. And that came from complaining about the website to the chancellor at the time. Chancellor Ammons came to a fireside chat that we had at Latham. Latham no longer exists. It's now a parking garage. But back then, it was a dorm. That's where I stayed at. And I remember during the fireside chat, I said, the website needs a lot of work. We don't look like a legitimate university. Now, mind you, this was 2001. And he told me, I never forget, he said, that's been a sore spot for me, and I've wanted to fix it. So he said, here's the number to our director of public relations, talk to her tomorrow. I went to her, and at first she didn't take me seriously, but I had a portfolio. I had my work together. I looked like I had been doing this work. I had not been doing this work, but it looked like I did because I had hypothetical projects. I had projects that I had made up just because when I was given this opportunity, I wanted it to look like I had been doing work. And at the time, I thought I was pretending. I thought I was pulling something over on them, but this is common practice. This is what people do. And that was what got me my first legitimate design job. And so I was responsible for designing and developing NCCU's first, I guess our first big website. And I do want to shout out Derek Brinson, who is still there. He's the webmaster there at NCCU for putting together the very first website. So shout out to Derek Brinson, my old co-worker. Love you, man. But that's my story. Chantal, I don't want to keep going on and on. Do you want to tell them a little bit about you?
Yeah, sure. So for my story, it's kind of similar in terms of needing a portfolio and that being a real critical element for designers or just creatives in general. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what work did I do throughout my 3.5 years at NCCU. What work did I do that's, still good enough that I am proud to include it in my portfolio? And I learned that, things that you did early on, like freshman year, sophomore year, might not be up to par. And so, like Tobias mentioned with the hypothetical projects, I had to go find some stuff. So I went online and found websites that I felt like were trash and redid them. Did the same with logos, did that with publications, flyers, all kinds of stuff, just so that I could build up a really comprehensive portfolio that could show the variety of skills that I had across platforms, across mediums, and all those kinds of things. So I do think that that is definitely a critical piece. And with that, I was able to, get a couple of part-time jobs immediately following graduation. So I did started at Kompleks doing design. And while I was at Kompleks, part-time as the first employee, maybe second employee.
You were the first intern, and
Okay.
then we transitioned you to employee. Yeah, your employee 00001.
Okay.
It's still on there too. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So I was definitely, doing that kind of work part-time, but then I also worked on campus at NCCU in one of the new departments, doing some design work, mostly print. So I was doing a lot of brochures, flyers, logos, that kind of work for a department on campus. And then I also worked at a local sign shop, which gave me the opportunity to do some more branding work. So
we
a lot
gotta
of
shout them out.
Oh, yes. So RTP Signs and Graphics, who works closely with Kompleks. We refer them to everyone today. But there I did a lot of like logo work and just thinking about print work. So a lot of my focus starting out was around print. And I did that for the first year before I joined NCCU's PR team or public relations team. And that's where things just kind of took off.
And so I want to back up because she mentioned Kompleks. I didn't tell you guys how it started. So, we met in 2002. I want to say we met when she first got to NCCU. So let me set the stage. We met in 2002, and we didn't really become close back then. It was just kind of this girl who worked in the art department. She was a freshman. She didn't work in the art department. You were in the art club. That's what it was. So this was 2002, and at that time, I was a year in, I think roughly a year, maybe 2 years in with the Praktis. And the Praktis was a company that I started when I was a student. So I was also working at the IT department. So I had that job, and by this time, I say 2005, by that time, I was pretty comfortable in my job. The chancellor at that point had me working on a lot of his own special projects. So I did the chancellor's website. I had to do a website for the Duke lacrosse issue. I guess that's the best way to say it. So I had to do a website for that. I had to do a website for a lot of things on campus. And at the time, I don't know what was wrong with me. I decided that it was a good idea to work at a video game store, run this company, the Praktis, work in the IT department, and be a full-time student. That's not sustainable. So obviously, at some point, the EB Games job that went away. That was something that I actually did while I was in school because I liked video games and it was extra money. So that went away, and I graduated. And once I graduated, I decided that it was just way too hard for me to try to do all those things at the same time. It just didn't make sense for me to do the practice, to work in IT. It just didn't make sense. It wasn't sustainable. So a year later, less than a year later, I decided to leave my job at NCCU. Now, this was 2006. Chantal had just graduated, and we were trying to figure out what the next move in life was going to be. So luckily, I had picked up a lot of this experience working in the IT department, and also I worked for an agency out of Chicago. So I did that work and working with the Praktis. So I picked up a lot of steam doing that, and the freelance just got to a point where it was hard for me to manage that and manage my job. And I remember going to my boss, and he was the CIO at the time, Greg Merrow. Shout out to Greg. Greg said, I had a feeling this day was going to come. Do you want to work part-time? And I said, you know what? I don't think this would make sense if I work part-time. I need to be put in a situation where I need to survive. And that's what I did. And so in 2006, I decided to leave my comfortable full-time job where, you know, I was actually getting ready. I didn't have benefits yet. I was getting ready to get benefits. That was about to start happening. I decided to quit and focus on the company. So in May 2006, that's when Kompleks Creative was officially born. And so Kompleks, we got an office that was in the same space as where Little Brother and Ninth Wonder, where those guys were recording. And it was loud. That first office was loud, but it was interesting because, you know, we would come into the office, and when I would come in the mornings, Prices was over there making beats, or Ninth was over there making beats, and or Fonte was getting ready to go home. And so that was how we started. And we thought we were big time back then. We all thought we had made it because we were in this dusty warehouse building in East Durham. And we did make it. We had done something. We did something that grew, and something that was able to ensure that other people were going to have a job. And I didn't realize the importance of building a company back then, but that's what we had done. This wasn't a freelance thing anymore. This was a real business. And so in May 2006, Kompleks Creative was born. And I could keep going on and on about that. We only have 20 minutes. So while we were doing Kompleks, I'll say this. Chantal had an interesting journey, because I'll be honest with you, when we were starting out, there was just no way you could sustain me and sustain her as an employee and whatever else we were going to try to do. So she had to go off and get another job. And so she did that and still worked with Kompleks part-time. And while working at Kompleks and doing the work that she was doing, I believe at the time it was at NCCU, she decided to take advantage of the fact that I think there was some kind of education thing where you could get a discount on your tuition.
Yeah. So while I was in NCCU's PR office, working on campus in general, you have the opportunity of, getting a discounted tuition rate. And so while I was in the office, though, I kind of learned about marketing communications, and I gained an interest in that and realized that I really enjoyed the strategy behind that kind of stuff. And so I decided that getting my MBA just makes the most sense. And so that's why I'm a double eagle. I got my MBA in 2013. And so even while pursuing my MBA, that's when I realized that I not only loved business, but I also had an interest for project management, which was something that I didn't really know too much about before that. So taking a project management course and learning about, organization and all that kind of stuff, that's just in my wheelhouse. That's how I function. And so, pursuing my MBA made sense. And after that class, I realized that Kompleks didn't have someone in that capacity. So, why not be me? And so that's kind of how I shifted from being a designer on a part-time capacity to doing some project management work part-time while I was still at NCCU, picking up the skills there.
Yeah, it was interesting. So I was around while she was getting that MBA. So it was interesting looking at her homework. And a lot of times with her homework, I would look at it and I said, man, that's something that I did the other day. I just did that. And she'd have a formula. She's like, you can just plug this in. I'm like, nah, forget that formula. Do that in my head because I don't need those formulas. I had this archaic way of trying to figure all these things out that made sense to me, but it was really long. And you can just plug in numbers into these cute formulas that they gave them in school. So it made a lot of sense bringing Chantal to Kompleks at that time as a project manager, because like she said, she just has this sense of organization that when combined with design, when combined with business and design and marketing, it makes sense and it can help make businesses better. And so
and before you move on, and at that time, we already had a full-time, maybe one or two full-time designers. We had a web developer, a business development person, as well as a studio assistant. So at that time, we already had a team of about 5 people. And so it made sense to have someone in a project manager capacity to help add structure to the workflow and to make sure that everyone's working really efficiently and, we're meeting the client's expectations at various points throughout a project.
Right. And then for me as a business owner, that also puts me in a position where I can actually run the business. Early on, when you're starting something like this, it makes sense for you to run the business and to do the business together. And then you get to a point where you realize that you are so distracted by doing the business, you're no longer running the business. So you're not able to make decisions for everyone because you're right there with them doing all the work that needs to get done, instead of looking at things from a perspective where you can see little things happening and make a small change or train this person so they can be in that role. So, that was some of the stuff that I think that I learned and that I'm still learning. Like Kompleks has been the biggest lesson for me, the biggest challenge. It's been something that has taught me a lot about myself. And I think with any company, any business you decide to start, that's one of the things that you're going to find out. It teaches you more about yourself than it teaches you about business, as crazy as that seems. Because in doing business, you start to find out what you will and you won't do. You find out where you may be weak at. You find out where you may have underdeveloped skills. For example, with Chantal, this innate ability to organize things. That's what she enjoys. She enjoys putting things together and making things make sense and bringing order to things. I enjoy creating something from nothing. That's just what has always intrigued me. I love making things that come out of our brains. I love giving people the ability to make things that come out of their brain. Like, I love creativity. And I do love business. I really love business. Part of the reason why I do the work that I do in the community now. And so, now Kompleks, we're a consultancy. And we still have, 2 designers working here right now. We're working through a pandemic. We have Izzy over here developing and coding and crushing it right now. Our team, we have purposely kept it small so we can manage it. And we've kept it at a place that we wanted it to be at because this is what we want to do. I love this business. I love this craft. And I'd say, if I'm going to give you guys any tips, because I believe that's why you guys are all here or you're watching. If you didn't pick it up and what we were saying, portfolio is key. Your portfolio in just about any creative discipline is going to be key. Whether you're going to be a rapper or you want to be an architect, a rapper needs to have music. You need to show people what you can do. You need to show a body of work. If you're going to be an architect, you need to do the same thing. You need to have a portfolio to show a body of work. But what happens when you come out of school, you don't have a body of work? You make one. You create one. Just like Chantal said, hypothetical work, hypothetical websites. For me, hypothetical websites, hypothetical graphic design, and then you have clients. You can't have a client pay for you to be educated on their project. They want you to come in with that expertise already. So I would say, if anything, work on your portfolio. And still, I think you should also compare yourself with your peers. Continue to do that as an exercise. Have a website. Totally, have a website. That's one of the things that I've told designers for years, have a website. Having a core flood or Chlorophod or Behance and Dribble, that stuff is great. You need to have that, but consider that a social media platform for designers. You still need to have a place for people to go when they want to find out about you. I could go on. Chantal, do you have any tips you want to give?
What I would also add to what Tobias is talking about is keeping an open mind when it comes to just learning. Because again, I started out as a designer and I thought my path was headed straight there, and I went all around. I started there and went all around. So, I mean, and I credit that to keeping an open mind to just learning new things. So taking advantage of every opportunity, every interaction with people, all the resources that are provided to you. So that could include, doing some extra work in your free time in order to pick up new skills or to advance in your career. It could be more networking events to just get in contact with those people that will help move you forward or connect you to the people to move forward. There's just so many opportunities that will be presented to you, and it's important that you take advantage of that and just learn and absorb as much as you can. Because, as you keep an open mind to everything, you'll learn that there's a lot of things that you're actually interested in, and you could add to your body of work or your experience and your skill set. And so I think those are important things for me, and I would definitely recommend that for you guys as well.
When it comes to your creative disciplines and having this body of work and doing the things that you need to do in order to get to where you want to be, you want to get on as a designer at another agency, become a consultant, be a freelancer, or work as an in-house designer, the craft is important. The craft is key. For us, it is design, it is marketing, it is strategy. And so with that, that means that we need to be, I always say we want to be ahead of the curve. You always want to research what it is that you're doing so that you know what the curve is. You always want to try to do what needs to be done in order to get better. So it doesn't stop. This thing that you're doing right now in school, it won't stop. It shouldn't stop. If it does stop, something's wrong. You should always be learning, always work to get better. And when someone says no, use that as ammunition, use that as fuel so that you can go back and work on your craft and get better and better and better. I'd say also, you guys have a unique perspective because you are coming from North Carolina Central University. Use everything that you have. Use this as an asset. That cultural awareness that you're gaining, unfortunately, you're not on campus, but you're gaining right now through this experience is going to be one of your greatest assets if you use it the right way. So, I say that to say, really dig into who you are, this experience, and what it's teaching you. Because every lesson that you're getting from this experience are going to be things that you can add to your toolbox, your creative toolbox, when you go out there into the real world. And that's what's going to separate you from those people that you're out there comparing your work against.
And then to add to that, I would say, as you're seeking employment and you're considering different agencies or different firms to work at, look at their body of work. Try to figure out whether or not you want to produce work on that level and compare that to your existing portfolio to figure out what work you need to do now in order to get a job there.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be looking for candidates that are already working at the level that they're producing. Even though you're entry level, they're going to expect a certain quality of work, just like their customers are going to, or their clients. So you want to look at their body of work, compare it to yours, and then make improvements on yours so that you can be on that level, because that'll make you a more viable candidate. I think that's definitely an important piece as you're just kind of doing your search, that self-evaluation and being really honest with yourself and where you're at is important.
I don't think that can be overstated, because that was something someone told me that the New York trip that a lot of the art students go to. I had someone in the agency tell me, he pointed to a Burger King poster that they had on the wall. And we've all seen those Burger King posters when we pass by Burger King. He said, if you can create work on that level, then you have a job here. And it seemed easy enough. You just want a picture of a hamburger with some text on top of it? That's easy. Nah. It ain't as easy as you think it is. because they're talking about art directing photo shoot to create that burger and make that burger look the way that it looked. They did all of that. Now I can do that work. But you have to remember, when you're going out there and you're looking for a job, the company doesn't want to hire you to teach you. They want to hire you so that you can help them make money. So you need to be a package. And then from there, the company invests in you, and they want to invest in making you better, not trying to train you to get to the fundamentals. So again, looking at those portfolios, looking at the work that they create and presenting them with that kind of work or work on that caliber, that's how you get the job. Well, I guess we've probably worn out our welcome at this point. I think we've gone past the point. But NCCU, thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. Chantal, any last words?
No, that's it. Best of luck.
Best of luck. And I think if I could say any last words to you guys, it would be Eagle Pride. I love you all. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chantal and Tobias. I don't know if you guys want to turn your cameras on. So
We're not, but we are here.
Okay, I understand. It's still early. But I am so glad that you all as Eagle alum were able to join us today. I've worked with you both on projects, and I can attest to how remarkably talented the both of you are. So thank you so much for joining us today and all of those amazing tips. We have some questions for you all. One thing that I wanted to ask was, I really liked the idea that y'all had of making up hypothetical projects. I think that for students who are, you might not have an internship, but you still want your portfolio to look good so you can get an internship or get a job, coming up with those hypothetical projects. So can you talk a little bit more about that and just some examples or tips that students could take to start building out their portfolio that way?
Yeah. Thanks, Chelsea. I think what happened with me was I was while I was in college, I was a really big hip hop head, and so I was really into Wu-Tang. So the agency that I worked at, she used that to kind of draw me in, and she was the director that I worked with. She was the one that actually introduced me to the concept of hypothetical projects. And so she said, here, what would a website look like for Wu-Tang? And I said, it would look like this if I were going to do one. And so that right there just kind of sparked the idea of me just kind of creating these things that I was really passionate about in order to get more work. And so, doing things like that, I think helped me out. It also gave me an opportunity to train myself, because after I was done with the work, I could go out there and compare it to real cases out there. So I think if, as you do those things, it's always really good to try to find ways to, intertwine your passions into your work when you do those hypothetical projects.
And then I would, to add to that, I would say you should always be seeking inspiration. And so as you run across designs and different projects that might inspire you, it would be good for you to collect and start to build like a catalog of those, whether it's on Pinterest, Instagram, whatever you use, build that catalog of just inspiration, and then use that to help kind of motivate you to create something. So you might see some really nice packaging design. You may never have seen it in the store, but you saw it on Pinterest. Task yourself with recreating that, or, not necessarily recreating that, but creating something similar for a different brand, or a brand that you've seen that you feel like they need an upgrade. Use that as an opportunity to create something that could be amazing and that you can add to your portfolio. And then you can say, I can design a wine bottle or something like, something like that.
Yeah, most of the work that you see out there, as designers, when you start looking for inspiration, a lot of that work, those are usually hypothetical projects. Those are the ones that get all that social media attention. Coca-Cola is not redesigning their logo. Nutella, they are not redoing their packaging anytime soon, but somebody sat down and said, hey, it would be cool if we did this, and it gets a lot of attention. And then it gets the rest of the design community thinking, and then that person becomes a much more viable and attractive candidate. So, yeah.
I love that. Get those creative juices flowing and redesign your favorite product. So we have a question about just going into your whole work experience, whether good or bad, and if how that has led you to where Kompleks is now. And if you can also talk about the value of taking experiences from everything and turning it into a success. I know that was a long question. So
Yeah,
we
that was long. Give me the first part again.
about talking through your whole work experience, whether good or bad, and how that's influenced where Kompleks is now.
You know what? I used to work at Walmart when I was in high school, and I worked there for a year. And and the thing about it was I was in high school and everything, but while working there, it taught me a lot about how they take something so small, something so little, and turn it into a process so they can repeat over and over and over. And that's how they make money.
Mhm.
And it was fascinating to me. It's like everything from coming in and checking the fish tanks to the way that you had to clean the bathrooms, everything was a process. But that's how they kept things moving. That's how they kept the big operation moving. And so, I took that with me because I would see these manuals that they gave us. And I know this seems like the smallest thing in the world, but I saw that there. And then when I worked at the Speedway, I worked at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and they had the same thing. And it taught me a lot about process. And you wouldn't believe it, but now when I work with a lot of businesses, that's one of the things that they're lacking. Whether they're lacking process in marketing, whether they're lacking process in business, it taught me a lot about that. And I think that's one of the things that's helped us out here at Kompleks is developing processes and always refining those processes. I'd also say that, I wanted to create a place that felt right, that was diverse in thought. I noticed even early on in some of my jobs when everyone looked the same, or looked similar, the solutions weren't as varied. And at Kompleks, I wanted to make sure that we were diverse in our thought, in our backgrounds, and that leads into the second part of your question. Every single experience you have influences how you create and influences your perspective. And so, we want people that have different experiences to contribute, different ideas creatively. Having a former rocker electronica kid as your web developer, and then you have a woman whose family is from the islands, from PG County, who is the director of operations, and then you got this country boy from Kannapolis, North Carolina, running the company. We're diverse in our thought and our backgrounds. And so that contributes to how we approach, the direction of the company and how we approach our happiness. When we do things for different clients, everyone, they may have different ideas of what one thing may mean based on those experiences and based on those things that they've experienced outside of just growing up in their respective, locations. So, that's something else that I think is really, really important.
And then to add to that, talking about the processes is actually what I was thinking about. Because when I was working in corporate America, I learned a lot about the processes and how they were conducting business in these large corporations like IBM, and then RTI is much smaller, but they're a bigger nonprofit. And so learning how they are conducting business, how they get through all of their work, how they're communicating internally. And what I would do is I was absorbing all of that and then trying to figure out which parts of that can I replicate at Kompleks or try out at Kompleks. And so that's when I learned about like agile workflows and all of that. And so I tried that out at Kompleks to see maybe if it works here, maybe it'll apply here as well. And so just kind of taking all those experiences and trying to see how different parts of it can apply to what you're doing today. And then also to add to that, I'm thinking about like customer service. You learn about customer service when you're working in retail as a teenager, all through college, if you guys are working in retail. And that's an important piece of, running a business when you're working directly with your clients. And so, they are going to expect relationships. They want, in terms of that customer service or communications, they want authenticity. And so, making sure that you use those customer service skills that you might have picked up in high school and all throughout college, continue using those, building on those, and making them even better as you become a professional. And I can't remember the second question, sorry.
You answered it. It was
okay.
Experiences from everything and turning it to a success. So I feel like you just answered it.
Okay, great.
But I love that. I feel like the theme of this morning and this afternoon has been experiences from everything you can apply to your current role or, your niche, whatever your destiny is. So another question from Pandora on Facebook. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of internships and how students can still find those opportunities in a pandemic?
Well, I can start with saying I know it's a lot harder in a pandemic. And I say that because our team is still working remotely, and I would imagine a lot of companies are also still doing that. And so it is going to be a lot more challenging. I know for us, we had to put a pause on bringing on interns because we had to completely shift our workflow to working remotely. And so to bring on someone that we would have to heavily train was just not something we could do at the moment. However, I have actually had a couple calls with students that are interested in interning, and a lot of them have been calling me and emailing, sending us messages through Instagram, just wanting to know what do they need to do in the meantime so that they can get an internship once it opens back up. And so it goes back to what we've talked about with building your portfolio, and that's going to be the biggest piece. Even as you're a student, it is important for you to be engaged on campus. Don't just go to school and get good grades. When we're looking at applications, we want to see that you are active on campus, that you are a leader in organizations. All of that adds to what you're going to bring to Kompleks. And so make sure that you're just not focused on getting good grades and that is it. Join organizations, get active, become a leader. Seek out internships, as many as you can. I mean, for us, when we're reviewing applications, you have to have at least one internship. If you've just gone to school for 4 years and that's it, you're not going to get that far. I might not even look at your portfolio if that's all you've done. We want to see that you're actually putting in the work, and that you're working, that you're actually in the workforce. And when you're looking at internships also, it is important that you're working on teams with other creatives. When you're working kind of in a silo where it's just you as the only designer and you're reporting to someone in marketing, that is not the same as you working in a creative space with other designers and reporting to a creative director. Your output is going to be different, your experience is going to be different, and it is really important for you to get that type of experience. You're going to grow a lot faster if you have that type of mentorship all throughout your internship. So I think that's a vital piece of your search when you're looking.
Mm-hmm. If I could add something to that, I'd say, for your internships, yes, they're very, very important. But even in the application process, for interns, I can't take an internship application seriously if I don't see any work. And that's again, like Chantal said, like we said before, a reason why having those portfolios is so important. But here's the other thing: your portfolio should be reflective of the type of work that you want to create, and also that company creates. Like there should be some kind of synergy there. So obviously with Kompleks, if you look at our portfolio, you see the kind of work that we do. You know, if you look at McKinney, you see the kind of work McKinney does, you know, and Brad, he'll tell you, we're advertising people. I'm an ad guy. He's like, Tobias, I'm an ad guy. You're a creative person. That's what we, you know, that's how we're different. You look, when you want to intern there, you give them things that play into their portfolio. Same thing with Kompleks. If you want to intern Kompleks, having logos probably going to be the thing that gets you higher up. Having website designs, things like that. But if you don't have anything and you say, hey, I'm planning on getting all that stuff at my internship, I'm going to look at the person that's already working. I'm going to look at the person that's already trying and putting in that work and putting in that effort and creating just because they want to be better and because they're dedicated to the craft. So, you know, when you're starting to look for those internships, I would say doing that kind of preparation first, and then, you know, putting together a smaller list of companies that match those things, and applying in that way is going to be helpful.
Awesome. So for students who are looking for internships with Kompleks, I'm getting that one, they need to be involved in campus. Two, looking at your website and seeing the clients that you work with to try and craft their portfolio to match. And just making sure that they're having some sort of experience where they're working in a team effort.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I'd say, you know, their portfolio doesn't have to, you know, it doesn't have to be a one-to-one match. Like, that's a lot. You know, we understand, you know, we're doing video and photography, we're doing strategy, but if you see that we're doing logos and, you know, you see that we're doing maybe print publications, having those, you know, even at minimal is good. Like, you don't have to have every single thing, but having some of those, checking, you know, 2 or 3 of those boxes. Yes, that's going to get you higher up. And I think that's going to be the case for most companies.
Awesome. So my last question, because I know that we have spent a lot of time with y'all today. I thought it was really interesting how engaged you both were while you were at NCCU, especially Tobias, you worked with the chancellor and you did his website. So how can students who are on campus, what tips do y'all have to advocate for the changes that they want to see? You know, we have a lot of students that, you know, they're tweeting, they want certain changes to be made, but what are some different steps that they could take to really advocate for changes or, you know, advocate for certain projects that should be done around campus?
Ask questions. You know, that's what I did. I started asking questions because for me, you know, there was a time when no, I can't lie. I was always involved in something on campus. I was going to say there was a time when I wasn't involved in things on campus, but I was always involved in things on campus. But I think my involvement changed once I started doing that advocacy work, not purposely. All I did was start asking questions to try to get things done. You know, a tweet's going to go out to the world, but it may not go to the person that handles facilities. That person that handles facilities, they're not on Twitter trying to check and see what people are tweeting about them in facilities. So, you know, I had to start asking questions and figuring out what are the ways to get things done. And that's what led me to SGA, you know. So I got led to SGA because I wanted to see some things get done. So for any student that wants to see things get done, I say start by asking questions. And then you can also see, are there other people out there that are trying to make this thing happen that I want to see done? You know, that's why I got led to SGA, because there was a whole group of people trying to do the things that I was doing. So, you know, I think honestly, that's something that's going to be important for all of us. You know, they talk about truth and service at NCCU, but that's real. Like, I don't feel right if I'm out here doing something and I'm not also doing something that I care about in the community. You know, that's why as a student, you know, I did SGA and I did NSBE, and that's why as an adult, I decided to start a nonprofit called Black Wall Street, you know, and I still advise for NSBE and I do all these other things. Like, I need to give that away. I have to give that away. That's what makes me, feel the way that I feel. And it makes me sharper in the work that I do for Kompleks. And that's one of those things that I didn't realize until I got older. And I'm not going to expect students to figure that out now, but there's a wisdom component to that I think I developed. So.
Anything else to add to that?
Awesome. So where can students connect with you? I know that probably several of them will be reaching out for internship opportunities whenever you do decide to open those up. So is there a best email? Should they visit your website, social media handles?
Yeah, I would say both. We have, if you're on Instagram, feel free to send us a message there. Check out our website. There is a careers page, so you can stay tuned there for whenever we have openings. And we're also both on LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with us there as well.
Yeah, so I'd say if you have questions about internships and jobs and things like that, definitely go through the website. If you want to follow our work, you can also follow us on Instagram, Kompleks Creative. You can follow me on Instagram as well. I post work as well, Tobias_Rose. But my Instagram is not going to be just design. It's also community stuff. And, there may be some advocacy things there as well. So feel free to follow there. And also you can follow on Twitter. You can follow on, you can follow us on Facebook. We're on Dribble. So if you're on Dribble, if you're on Behance, we're on those. And we're also on Vimeo. You can put in Kompleks or Kompleks Creative on all those platforms to find us.
Great. So I'll drop all that in the chat. But thank you so much for your time today. It's been amazing hearing all of these tips from you. And I hope you enjoyed your day. It was good hearing you.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Yeah, thank you, Chelsea. It's been a minute, so I haven't seen you in a while.
Yes. All right.